On this episode of MythBusters,
we expected something and something happened.
Adam and Jamie have a movie myth they were born for. Can a gas leak and a magazine in a toaster
But in a little bit, it's not going to be very happy in here.
make a room go kaboom?
I love running for safety.
Then,
I'm starting to get a little nervous.
Cary Grant and Tori tackle the tall tale of blue ice.
That is incredible!
Can the contents of an airplane's toilet really fall from the sky
That thing is hauling.
in one frozen chunk?
This is an awesome day.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage and Jamie Heineman.
Am I really that ugly?
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Joining them, Grant Imahara, Carrie Byron,
Time to wreck this car.
and Tori Belleci.
We survived.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Have you seen The Bourne Supremacy?
I love that movie. I love the whole Bourne trilogy. Have you got a myth from Supremacy we can test?
There's a scene where Bourne broke into an apartment, and he knows the bad guys are coming, so he has to make an escape. What he does is he breaks the gas line where it goes into the stove to let the gas flow. He grabs a magazine, shoves it in the toaster, sets the toaster on, and 20 seconds later, when the magazine sets on fire, the whole apartment blows up. And so Bourne makes his escape.
That's like perfect for us to test.
I think I have a pretty good idea where we should start.
Okay, but before you tell me, I actually want to demonstrate how much I love the Bourne movies. You know, I collect movie props. This is actually Jason Bourne's red bag from the Bourne Identity in the wastebasket from the Swiss bank. Not only that, it's actually full of all of the props that were actually in that bag in the film. All his trinkets and even his stud pistol. It's made of rubber. Isn't that cool?
We need to find out whether a magazine would actually set on fire when it's put in a toaster.
Okay.
There are 3 ingredients to this Bourne-style getaway: the toaster, the magazine, and the natural gas. And first in the mix are 1 and 2. How long does it take to toast a magazine?
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
The guys start the clock using a magazine like the one in the movie and a toaster rigged to stay on.
You know, in the movie, it was already on fire at this point.
As it turns out, toasting a magazine takes a little longer than the 20 seconds of the film.
Oh, 3 minutes over schedule. I think we're really close.
In fact, it takes over 12 minutes before they get ignition.
Hey, we got fire! Ta-da! Remember, kids, we're professionals. So, reality is 12 minutes versus the movie's 25 some odd seconds. Hey, we got fire! What do you think?
Well, what I think is that this magazine is a worst case scenario because look how thick those pages are. And magazines are all different shapes and sizes.
So you think we should try a whole bunch of different kinds of magazines and see if they have different rates at which they catch on fire?
Exactly.
I love it. Let's do it. Lots of toasters now.
It's clear the real-world magazine doesn't light up like its movie counterpart. So now the MythBusters are on the trail of a best-case scenario.
In order to cover our bases here and working up the theory that different types of magazines composed of different kinds of paper are going to catch a light at different rates, we're about to put a half dozen of them to the test. Everything from our original magazine to something much harder to catch on fire, comic book, something that'll probably catch on fire in like seconds. We're gonna put 1 in each of these toasters, start this timer, and log how long each of them takes to catch a light. What could be more fun?
Well, with the 6 magazines in place, let the char grilling challenge commence.
We're experimentally doing something that should just never, ever be done. I like that. No.
Flame.
Number 3, 1 minute, 40 seconds.
This time around, it seems the contenders are a little quicker to toast.
It's 2:20.
Yep. Here we go.
Number 4, 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Oh, number 1, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Let's listen for that sound.
There we go.
There it is. 4 minutes, 36 seconds.
And finally, bringing up the rear
There it is.
the original magazine at 12 minutes.
As we suspected, it does make a difference what kind of magazine is stuffed in the toaster. The best case scenario is something that amounts to common newsprint, but even that took about 3 times as long as what it did in the movie. Interesting.
So it's clear that even with the best case scenario magazine, toaster ignition takes a lot longer than the 20 seconds it took Bourne. And now to test the next ingredient of this explosive combination, the methane.
Now, methane here is a natural gas, and it's most of what comes out of your stove at home to cook with. It's a flammable gas, but it's not flammable on its own. It actually requires a certain amount of oxygen out of the air in order to burn. How much oxygen? Well, that actually turns out to be a very particular relationship. The relationship of oxygen to flammable gas is called stoichiometry.
To create fire, it takes heat, fuel, and oxygen. And when it comes to flammable gases, the amount of fuel to oxygen is a complex relationship called stoichiometry. Too much fuel or too little, and there'll be nothing close to a flame. But get the perfect mixture, and you get an explosion. Now, according to the movie, it took Bourne 20 seconds to get that explosive ratio of air to gas just right. So now the MythBusters are dialing in to find out exactly what it is.
We know that if we're going to get methane to burn, we need a ratio of between 6 and 17% fuel to air. The ideal range is about 9% methane and the rest air. What we don't know is what that actually means. Does that mean if we are a little off, we get sort of a woof, but if we get right at the 9%, we're getting a real strong bang? Before we go full scale, we want to really know what we're doing. So what we've done is make a 10-inch by 10-inch by 10-inch cubic box. And that'll allow us to really easily dial in on these ratios to see what it means.
And while Jamie is boxing, Adam has the ratios in the bag.
One of the ratios I want to play with is 9% flammable gas to air. This bag holds 9% of the volume of this chamber. I will fill it with gas. I will then hook it up to the chamber, open up both of the valves, press the gas into the chamber. I'll be displacing air that comes out of this little hole right here. Seal it up, walk away, ignite it with a neon transformer, and see what happens.
Adam's bags will help the guys zone in on exactly what ratio of methane to air is explosive. And speaking of methane,
So that we can ignite this thing safely, we're going to remotely turn on this neon transformer that'll create a high voltage spark inside the methane chamber. And here we'll be able to vary the methane concentrations, ignite it, and see what we get.
first up, a test at the very bottom of the stoichiometric zone, 6%.
We're good.
Okay, 6%. In 3, 2, 1.
We expected something and something happened. Our frangible box separated just as we hoped it would, and it's actually kind of a little bit of a I was expecting a little more from an explosion, and I'm interested to see if our optimal stoichiometric ratio gives us that.
Me too.
Well, let's set it up.
Okay.
6% is explosive, but what if Bourne achieved the optimal ratio of 9% methane to air?
9% in 3, 2, 1. Well, that was more energetic.
9% was definitely more energetic. But for Adam, the surprising thing is that at both ratios, they scored the mythical explosion they're looking for.
This is awesome. We think that 6% means we'll see a small pop, 9% means we'll see a big pop. In this case, that's not the case. And that actually makes it look better for this myth. If we're getting a pop at the very lowest end of the stoichiometric range, that's making Bourne's use of this as a diversion technique more feasible. I'm not saying it's probable, but it's making it look more feasible.
You're looking excited.
That's because we have a myth that's spectacular, gross, and challenging all wrapped up into one.
What's the story?
It's the one where the pilot jettisons the contents of an airplane toilet, which promptly freezes at altitude and turns into a deadly projectile.
Ah, you're talking about the myth of blue ice.
Exactly.
When mysterious substances of suspect origin fall from the sky, urban myths are sure to follow. And the conspiracy theory that has the message boards in a spin is the infamous blue ice. And here's how it happens. On a bright sunny day, a passing pilot supposedly jettisons the contents of the toilet's tank. And apparently at high altitudes, the sub-zero temperatures freeze the liquid into a damaging and disgusting missile.
All right, we know a little bit about airplane toilets because we did a myth on them. We know for a fact you can't get sucked into them if you're sitting down.
And we know the reason why it's blue is because they use that chemical to cover the smell.
But what we don't know is, what happens to the waste?
Yeah, can you actually eject the contents in midair?
I guess this is where we start.
So first up, Carrie hits Stockton Airport to find out when and how a pilot dumps his waste.
So you're an airplane technician. What do you think of our old blue ice myth?
Well, Carrie, as you can see from this cockpit, there are thousands of buttons and switches, of which none are labeled dump the toilet.
Which is bad news for the myth. But if the pilot can't jettison the John mid-flight, is there any way the liquid blue waste can escape?
Failure of components.
So there could be a mechanical problem that causes blue ice instead of the pilot.
Yes, like with most systems on an airplane, there are redundancies, and with the lab, it's no different.
Yep, there are 3 fail-safes that have to be breached in order for the liquid to leak. The dump valve on the holding tank, and 2 watertight seals leading to the exterior of the fuselage. If all 3 of those components fail, that's a problem. And to get a closer look, it's that toilet tour Carrie's been waiting for.
So I noticed that there's a sign that says don't throw any foreign bodies into the toilet. If something hard had been thrown in there, like a cell phone, is it possible that that could create a leak?
Totally, that's very important. Any hard object gets lodged up against this seal, it's going to leak.
So if the dump valve seal was compromised, wastewater would flood the pipe, pushing up against the remaining 2 valves.
This is the forward lav access door.
So that leads right up into the toilet.
That's correct.
And it's here on the fuselage that we find those final watertight seals. But could they both fail? And if so, would it lead to a slow leak or a large-scale dump?
Not likely. Is it possible? Absolutely. Multiple components that fail, leading to a problem.
This myth is looking good.
All right, Carrie, so how did it go?
Well, part of this myth isn't looking good. There's no way for the pilot to jettison the contents of a toilet.
True, but that doesn't rule out ice falling off the plane.
That's right, there's still 2 scenarios that could happen. There could be a major malfunction that leads to either all of the contents coming out at once, freezing and falling to Earth, or you could get a nice slow leak that created an ice ball.
Now the question is, how are we going to test them?
Actually, we've been talking to our friends at NASA, and they've agreed to let us use their icing research tunnel, which can simultaneously duplicate temperatures of -20 degrees and wind speeds of up to 250 knots.
That is the perfect conditions for high altitude.
Well, it sounds like before we leave, we're going to have to build a leaky airplane toilet.
Now, this myth is about airplanes, but in order to test it, we don't need to build a full airplane. All we need to do is make something that has similar aerodynamic properties. So, this is our design. And this will have low drag and a place to leak, which are the most important things.
So for their tests at NASA, Carrie builds a waste system designed to fail in 2 ways, either with a slow leak or a catastrophic dump. Then with the wind tunnel simulating a high-altitude flight, they'll be able to determine if blue ice forms in either scenario.
Now, according to NASA specs, it had to be out of aluminum because that's what airplanes are made of, and we were not allowed to weld anything because they didn't want anything breaking apart inside the wind tunnel because there's going to be so much pressure created by the wind. So we had to drill and rivet over 600 rivets to put our airplane together. And what we have right here is our valve. This is what we're gonna have hooked up to a water tank, and we're gonna be doing 2 tests. One where we dump the water completely, and then one where there's a slow leak to find out, can you grow a chunk of ice on the side of a plane?
Jason Bourne knows how to make an explosive exit. But could a magazine in a toaster really toast a gas-filled apartment? After getting to know their enemy in the shop, the guys are ready to go full scale.
If we're going to replicate the natural gas explosion in this guy's apartment from the movie, we're gonna need clearly 2 things. Yeah, they said, get your own show. It'll open all sorts of doors. One is methane, natural gas, which is easy to get. And 2 is the guy's apartment, which we don't actually have. So we've come out to the bomb range where they've got plenty of room. And in a few hours, we're gonna build this guy's apartment. Not to code, we just need it to be a gas containment device that is in the shape of the apartment. But it will be properly appointed, I'm sure.
So to find out if you really can get a room to kaboom with just gas, a magazine, and a toaster, they'll precisely replicate the circumstances of the movie, starting with the apartment dimensions, 16 by 32 feet.
Oh, hello. Are you here for the explosion?
With Adam and his minions working on the 4 walls,
Ow.
it's over to the Heineman to provide cover.
I'm putting together the roof. How this will work is I'm just making 16 by 8 foot wide panels. I'm gonna go ahead and skin them and everything, and then I'm gonna lift them up with the forklift and put them on the roof. Screw them down, we have a roof.
Once the roof has been successfully raised,
It ain't pretty, but it's home.
it's time for the resident exterior decorator to take over.
After you blow enough things up, you start to look for aesthetic finesse in the explosion. I'll give you an example. First hot water heater, when we painted that little house red. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? So we're gonna give the same treatment to this thing. We're gonna paint the outside a lovely orange so that when it finally blows up, the high-speed shot will be especially gorgeous.
Well, it certainly will be explosively tangerine. And while Agent Orange gets ahead, Jamie is busy on the inside.
We need this room to be more or less airtight, or the methane we're going to pump in here in a few minutes will escape, and that would be a bad thing. To do that, I'm using packaging tape because it's quick, it's cheap, and I can remove it after we're done with this thing, along with the screws that we're using to build this room, because I want to recycle the lumber. I don't like to waste stuff. And of course, that is assuming that this isn't all splinters after the explosion.
Yep, as per usual, anything they don't destroy is recycled. It's the MythBusters way.
There. I wouldn't call it livable, but I'd call it blow-upable.
It is blow-upable, and the final finishing touches are to furnish it before they step on the gas.
Excellent.
That's got a nice view here, you know, the valley out the window there.
Don't you just know that Jamie's gonna hate this?
The house may be complete, but soon it'll be filled with highly flammable gas. And in the event they don't get an ignition, Adam has created this.
What I've got here is an exhaust system so that I can evacuate the gas from this room. Because one of the most dangerous things that could happen to us in this experiment is nothing. We found this on Cell Phone Destroy's gas station. We had a room full of gasoline fumes, and we didn't get it to ignite, and nobody wants to approach a room full of fumes. Hello, explosion. Hello. So, if nothing happens, I've got a switch I can turn that will start these fans all up and get all the gas out of this room so it's safe to do a reset. I think that's the last piece of the puzzle. I'll get to a safe location.
And that's not the only safety precaution they're taking with this test.
This is our methane outlet, which has tinsel on it, which we will be able to see moving if gas is coming through here on our remote camera. This is our tank of methane. We have a regulator and a flow meter attached to it. Now, this rig is set up to give us the same kind of input of gas into our house as you would normally have in a domestic gas line going into an apartment. Now, this valve here I have with a line attached to it that goes to our bunker. And I'm going to pull on this line if there's anything that bothers me about this setting, because, you know, it's gas, it's flammable, If there's something we don't like, we want to be able to shut it off. And from this distance, I can safely pull the plug if there's something I don't like.
The list of things Jamie doesn't like may be a long one, but if the explosion of the movie is anything to go by, putting this myth to the test could be very dangerous.
Well, it's a little post-earthquakey, but I think this is a fine experimental space.
It's fine now, but in a little bit, it's not going to be very happy in here.
Not if everything goes well.
No.
Well, shall we get started?
Yeah.
After you.
Thank you.
Carrie, Grant, and Tori are tackling the infamous tall tale of blue ice. Can a leaking toilet midair lead to a deadly chunk of ice down there? To find out for sure,
Wow.
Tori and Grant touch down in Nerd Nirvana.
All stations reporting with a go, no go.
Roger, prepare to release the geek. Because this place has a heap of hardcore hardware.
This massive fan is the heart of NASA's icing tunnel. It's powered by a 5,000 horsepower direct drive electric motor. It has 12 individual custom fan blades for a diameter of 25 feet. It's capable of generating wind speeds over 300 knots. And that's only half the equation. This is the other half of the equation, the icing tunnel itself. The wind comes rushing through here, refrigerated to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Those are the spectacular specs. And now, to put them to good use.
The way we're going to test this is we're going to stick our section of fuselage into their wind tunnel.
Does this mean I'm the R2-D2?
Oh boy. And recreate the same wind speeds and temperatures that you would find at altitude. Then we're going to create a leak inside the valve. Let it sit there and see if those conditions will cause that blue liquid to form into a chunk of ice.
Remember, there are 2 leaky valve scenarios the team will test. And first up is the catastrophic dump.
What I think is going to happen is we're going to open the valve, all the fluid's going to come out, and it's just going to go essentially atomize into nothing.
Grant's skeptical of a blue icicle, but to find out for sure, he fills the toilet with some pseudo-blue waste.
Smells like a chemical toilet. All right, start the test.
We have our model in position. We're ready to go.
All right, fire it up.
All right, let's go. Fire it up.
Maximum warp. Oh, sorry, I just made that really
We're trying to
geeky,
make
didn't I?
science cool, dude.
Here we go.
And for cool science, let's make it so. The fan winds up, whipping up a 290-mile-an-hour wind speed. Then the heat exchanger drops the air temperature to a high altitude minus 20 degrees Celsius.
Our model is holding together perfectly.
Then they're ready to pull the pin on the catastrophic failure test. Will the blue liquid instantly freeze into a chunk of blue ice?
So this is full tanked up in 3, 2, 1, go! Oh my God! Look at how fast it's going out. That is awesome.
As soon as the liquid exits the aircraft, it's ripped away by the shearing force of the wind. And despite the bitterly cold air temperatures, it's unable to form the mythical slice of ice.
So behind me are the results of our complete release test where we dumped the entire contents of the waste tank. Now, it didn't atomize all the way because you can see some of it formed on the surface here, but it also did not form one big chunk that could fall on someone.
Yep, although most of the blue waste was vaporized on contact with the wind, some did form a thin layer, just not enough for a blue icicle.
But I mean, it's incredible. We got an actual layer of ice, and pretty quickly.
All right, well, let's try again and this time have a slow leak.
All right, let's see if that gives us a big chunk of ice.
Okay, so we're ready to do our slow leak test. My personal feeling is that we'll probably get maybe a line of frozen liquid. Maybe that's building up, but I don't think there's any way we're gonna get anything this big freezing and falling off the fuselage.
Once again, the NASA techs simulate the same high-altitude conditions and then sabotage the plumbing for the drip test. And once the leak is leaking,
quick the ice is building up.
The results are as astonishing as they are immediate.
Dude, this is looking great. And it's blue.
That is fantastic. It hasn't even been 2 minutes yet.
Oh my gosh. That is incredible.
The liquid moving over the surface of the aircraft is protected from the extreme wind speeds by what's called a boundary layer.
What that means is that not all the air traveling over the airplane goes at the same rate. In certain areas, it actually travels a lot slower.
Which creates a protective cushion where ice crystals can form.
This thing is like this big. I call that baseball size right there.
If that whole thing broke off, that would be just like the Myth.
The guys are blown away, unlike the ice. The question is, how big can it get, and will it fall off?
I just can't believe how big it's getting.
20 minutes later, with a diameter around 10 inches, the blue icicle seems to have reached a size plateau.
It's approaching soccer ball size.
And with plenty of water still in the tank, that's not the limiting factor. But Grant thinks he knows what is.
Now, an interesting thing to note here is that as the ice is getting thicker and pushing away from the skid, it's actually pushing its way out of the boundary layer. Once it exits the boundary layer, it actually hits the faster-moving air and just goes away. It doesn't allow it to freeze up, which may be a reason why the ice doesn't get really, really big.
So with this fuselage, these wind speeds, and this air temperature, this is as big as it's going to get.
But let's see if we can get it to fall off. Let's pretend like it's at its final descent, temperatures are rising. Maybe we can get it to break off and find out exactly what happens when it does.
Perfect.
All right, start warming it up.
It's a good theory, because as the aircraft descends and the air temperature warms,
Oh, we're getting bigger chunks breaking off.
surely it's only a matter of time before the blue ice barnacle becomes a blue ice missile.
-7 degrees.
And as it turns out, when the wind tunnel conditions match those of an altitude of 12,000 feet, we have liftoff.
That thing blew up in one giant chunk. Wow! Dude, that was perfect.
It was a perfect illustration that this myth has a foundation in aerodynamic fact.
That is unbelievable. That is solid ice. And it happened so quickly.
And it came off in one giant chunk.
This myth is starting to look very, very believable.
Yeah, but you know what the next step is? What happens to the ice after it falls off?
I can't believe it.
Here's the story we're testing. Jason Bourne, knowing that the bad guys are coming, wanting to buy himself a little extra time for the chase, opens up the gas line of the house he's in, walks over to a toaster, grabs a magazine and sticks it in that toaster and sets it as a remote fuse, and then he exits the house. 30 seconds later, a massive explosion gives him the lead time he's looking for. Now, is that remotely plausible? Well, those are the circumstances we've got set up in this house right here, and that's going to be our first test.
In other words, this test will be exactly like the movie, but with one exception.
According to our testing, it actually takes about 2 minutes for the toaster to set the magazine on fire. So that means that we've had about 4 times the amount of gas going into the room, and that 2 minutes is what Bourne had for the whole house to blow up. Now, that 2 minutes, in our case, is only allowing about 7 cubic feet of methane to go into the house, and it's rising towards the roof. Meanwhile, our source of ignition is about 15 feet away. I don't expect to see any kind of explosion at all.
And that's down to stoichiometry. In theory, for a room this size, 7 cubic feet of methane will be too low a concentration to ignite.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, Adam, go ahead and turn on the gas.
Copy that.
But this is MythBusters, and it's not a fact until you test it.
I love running for safety.
I can see the gas going in,
It's the
and
gas going in. I can't see the... Oh, I see smoke coming off the newspaper.
yes,
That's great.
it's a good sign.
It's pretty eerie watching flammable gas go into a room in which we've started a fire.
Or are about to. I see some fire.
Fire, great. All right.
The magazine may finally be on fire, but the methane is not igniting.
Oh man, that toaster's totally burning.
And even after a further 60 seconds, there's still no hint of a Hollywood blast.
Gas is off.
Starting up the fans to evacuate the room.
That was cool.
That was very cool. I was a little tense. Flammable gas, a fire, no boom.
No boom. So it's time to send in the MythBusters Fire Brigade.
Oh, yeah.
There's your problem. So we knew from our small-scale experiments that flammable gas plus fire does not always get the reaction that you're looking for. The mixture has to be perfect. And we posited that replicating the circumstances from the Bourne film in full scale would not yield a reaction, and that's in fact exactly what happened. It's rare, but it turns out we were right. I learn when I'm wrong, but I don't mind being right from time to time. So we replicated all the circumstances for Bourne's evasion technique, and it totally didn't work. I think that's a pretty clean busting of the myth.
Yeah, it's busted. But, you know, I was thinking,
Yeah.
if we put something in that room that burned for longer, eventually something's going to happen.
You mean eventually the gas and the air will reach a mixture whereby we will get some kind of reaction?
Yeah.
I love it. I think that should be the next test.
Although the exact circumstances of the movie won't get the bad guys off your tail, the question is, could a little more gas and a longer fuse get the big Bourne boom?
We know from our small-scale testing and our research that it takes a minimum 6% fuel-to-air mix for methane and air to support ignition. The way we've got it planned out, if we take the contents of this methane tank and put it in our test room, we'll have the right fuel-air mix. So it's just a question of connecting the flame that we've built in there with that gas. If that happens, she's going to blow.
How are we going to get a long, burning, open flame? Well, we're throwing out the toaster and the magazine, and we're going with a supermarket fireplace log. Light this puppy on fire, it'll burn for at least an hour. This is for real.
The log will burn while the gas builds to the 6% ratio.
That's it.
But when it hits the stoichiometric zone, will they get the bad guy repelling detonation of the movie? Adam has his doubts.
What's going to happen exactly? Well, look, we know that the ideal mixture of air to flammable gas is a ratio, and it has a range. Presumably, the reaction we're going to get out of this next experiment will be a reaction at the bottom of that range. So I don't expect it to be a fire and brimstone massive explosion. I expect it to be more like a really big champagne pop, like pah!
Back in the safety of the bunker, at first, things go just as planned.
Did you leave a log burning on the kitchen table? Aw, crap, I did.
But in a dramatic turn of events, after 4 minutes,
Oh, you know what's happening? The gas is actually making the whole room catch on fire.
things suddenly get incendiary
I see smoke on the...
Oh, we're burning this building down.
and out of control.
Uh-oh. There we go, we had a blowout. That's it. Well, I don't know if we're putting this building out.
Oh, we should get up there with the hose.
All right, let's turn off the gas.
Gas is off.
The MythBusters initiate the safety protocols
Watch out.
and cautiously approach their apartment inferno.
Don't go in.
I'm not seeing any flame.
There's the hole we blew.
It may not have been the blast of the movie,
It's a horror show in there.
but the methane sure made a mess of the apartment.
Unlike your typical, it was clear that the gas made the atmosphere in here really rich, and so the fire started burning much hotter and higher than it normally would have with just straight air. So all of a sudden the fire's going up and reaching the ceiling, we could see smoke coming out of the top, and then the mixture hit the bottom of the stoichiometric range, and we saw this whomp across the whole room. I'm seeing broken glass on a bunch of windows, on the back double doors. It's clear that we got a significant reaction, but nothing close to what we saw in the movie.
Nothing close to a kaboom, but certainly enough of a conflagration to distract the bad guys.
It's really clear from all the melted plastic in there, and even our exhaust fans melted. It got super crazy hot in there very quickly. I mean, just the whole room was absolute. I didn't even know what temperature it could be at, but it was really hot.
But you know we're not going to leave it there.
No.
So here's where we're at. We've looked into airline toilets and found that they can leak through an external valve.
Is it possible? Absolutely.
We made our own fuselage, went to NASA's wind tunnel, and found that you could actually form a giant chunk of ice, which then fell off the airplane. Now what we're going to test is what happens to that ice after it falls. What we need to see for this myth to be confirmed is for that ice to fall through the air as one giant chunk and hit the ground as one piece with deadly force.
This is the final piece of the blue ice puzzle. While falling from 12,000 feet at a terminal velocity of 160 miles per hour, will the ice stay in one piece? Or will wind erosion and warming temperatures cause it to break up into harmless blue rain? To track that, the team has a spectacular plan of action.
We have our airplane. We're going to load it up with a large chunk of ice, take it up to altitude, and then throw it out. Now we're going to have a few skydivers jump out with the ice to track it. Carrie is going to be one of those skydivers.
Yep, and skydiving team leader Nick also has the crucial job of timing the drop. Because if the myth is true and the blue ice falls in one chunk, missing the mark could be deadly.
Let's hope they can see that.
So Nick, what's involved in actually calculating where something's going to land?
Well, first off, we need to figure out how fast this object is going to free fall. The second thing is we have a lot of wind here, so as the wind blows, the object's going to blow with it. The third thing is, too, the airplane has forward speed when we chuck out the ice out of the plane, and with that creates a forward throw. So all these three factors is what we use, and we make an educated guess of where we need to drop it from the aircraft to land right on the target. Are you ready?
That sounds simple. So, Grant, what's the plan?
Okay, so here's the plan. Carrie and our expert Nick will go in the plane with the ice. They're going to go up, and based on the prevailing conditions and Nick's calculations, they'll know when to release the ice at an altitude that they deem safe. Nick will jump out, and so will Carrie, following the ice down.
You'll be fine.
I'm going to double check this.
Meanwhile, Tori and I will be on the ground tracking the ice in the air and looking for the impact zone.
And as for the blue ice, well, earlier, Carrie prepared a similar-sized block to the test at NASA. It's approximately the diameter of a basketball, eye-catching, and easily retrievable.
To make sure that we can watch this ice fall, I've done something a little different. I've made it red instead of blue so that it's going to stand out on the blue sky. I've added some really long streamers so that we can track it, and I'm going to put a GPS on it.
Now, for this myth to be confirmed, we need to see that block of ice drop from altitude and get to the Earth in one solid chunk.
Good luck. Good luck, you guys. Thank you.
What I think is going to happen, I think Carrie is going to scream her head off. She may potentially pee her suit, but I think that block of ice is going to land on the ground in one big chunk.
Okay, here's the package. Good luck.
And despite all of their precautions, they will need some luck. Their goal is to drop the ice and Carrie from 12,000 feet.
Here we go, Carrie.
The height at which Grant and Tori saw the ice release from the fuselage at NASA.
Okay, now I'm starting to get a little nervous.
But will it remain intact? Traveling with an energy of 392,000 joules, its impact will certainly be deadly. However, if it melts in the rising temperatures, it'll be rendered harmless.
We've done many experiments where we drop things from altitude or throw things out of planes, and you know what? My feeling is that this ice is going to fall down in one piece and land with a tremendous amount of force.
Golf?
In fact, I think it's going to land so hard, it's probably going to leave a little crater down at the ground. Whether it's going to break up or melt, no way. It's going to be one giant chunk.
At 12,000 feet, Carrie and her free-falling friends are preparing to deploy their blue ice cargo.
All I gotta do is look at the ice. One job.
But will it break up on descent or have the devastating impact internet reports claim?
Oh boy. This is it, huh?
If the team misjudged the timing of the drop by even a second, a 35-pound projectile traveling at 160 miles per hour could crash through a neighboring house. But that's only if the ice actually stays in one chunk. If it breaks up, the only thing busted will be the myth.
I got them. They're approaching the drop zone.
So this is it. It's time to drop out and jump off for science.
Okay, the ice is away. Ah, it's over there.
In a stunning piece of free-fall camera work, Nick manages to capture the ice as it plummets.
Oh, look how fast it's falling.
That thing is falling.
And Carrie can see that it's so far so good. With the ice already at a balmy 5,000 feet, it's still completely intact.
Look, it's standing in one chunk.
Dude, that's crazy.
But will it stay that way as they enter the final few thousand feet of descent?
I see the ice right there, and it's not near the target. That's great.
Do you see the size of that impact?
And did you see it stayed in one chunk?
Wow, that's maybe only 150 feet from the drop zone.
I saw the ice go down, and I swear I saw it land. It stayed intact.
Let's go meet Carrie and we'll go find it.
All right, let's go get it.
Hi, Tori. Hi, Grant.
Here she
Oh,
comes.
she's coming in hot.
You made it.
Wow. Nice.
What a ride, and what a test. And no wonder Carrie's adrenaline is off the charts.
Good job.
Let's go check out the ice. Did you see it?
Yeah,
Did you see
yeah,
it?
right over.
Everything went according to plan. For the majority of its descent, there was visual contact, confirming that the ice retained its shape and mass. And then, thanks to Carrie's visual aids and Nick's awesome aim, finding the impact site is a breeze.
There's the streamer.
Is it intact?
I mean, it was a chunk before it hit the ground. And that is still a chunk of ice.
Check it out. It dug itself into the ground.
Wow, that is a serious impact.
Yep, and it may have melted slightly in the time it took to find it, but the crater created is a clear testament to its destructive power.
This is the size of the block of ice that we threw out of our plane, which is very similar to the size of the chunk of ice that we formed in our wind tunnel at NASA that fell off. That block of ice reached terminal velocity very quickly, and it left a sizable impact crater. And what's more, it stayed pretty much intact all the way down to impact.
Because when we actually got to the site where the ice had hit, it really looked like all of the ice chunks I had seen on the internet that were the mythical blue ice that had come down in people's houses. Okay, a pilot can't release all of the toilet water at once, so that part's busted, but I think the phenomena is confirmed. I mean, it made it all the way to the ground.
Totally confirmed.
I agree 100%.
Confirmed. But 3 mechanical failures leading to blue ice falling on your house is in reality incredibly unlikely.
Gotta be looking up for blue ice to fall on my head now, right?
Dude, I'm gonna get blue ice insurance.
I know a guy. So
Yeah?
let me know. I'll give you his number.
At the MythBusters mansion, they've been renovating Bourne style.
No boom.
However, the myth as it appears in the movie is busted. But it ain't over until the man in the beret gets a big Bourne boom. So next, they're upping the ante with more gas.
Now, when we empty this tank into that house, that means that we'll have just over 9% methane to air in there. And that happens to be the butter zone for an explosion.
The guys know from small scale that 9% netted them the most energetic boom. But this is large scale. Will this test rip apart the apartment Bourne style? Before they blow it up, they need to spruce it up.
We've swapped out all the windows and doors. All these holes that got warped and opened, we're gonna actually lay in a bunch of stripping. we've probably tripled the cohesive strength of this building, and that ought to give us just the boom we're looking for.
When we first put this building together, I was impressed at how poorly we were able to do it. And yet, I think we've made it even worse.
Even worse. But for this attempt, they're doing things slightly differently.
Jamie's known for how he handles his fans.
This time around, I'm running the methane into the house through this hose that I've attached to the floor, and I've drilled a lot of little holes in the hose so that we'll get these jets of gas coming out that will mix with the air that is being pushed across them with these fans. Kind of like a blender.
Just mix the air all along.
Yeah. This swirling mass of air, I'm hoping, will distribute this fuel-air mix throughout the room, and hopefully that'll make the difference between a poof and a bang.
Jamie's fantastic method will circulate the methane throughout the apartment. And with the dangerous ratio of 9% gas to air, they'll need something more sophisticated for ignition.
We don't need a toaster and a magazine anymore because we need precise control over when we set the fire. So we've brought back out the neon transformer from the small-scale testing with the addition of a little piece of paper here. Go ahead and plug it in. We're going to be able to set a fire exactly when we want to set a fire.
Exactly when they achieve the Goldilocks ratio of 9% methane to air.
Fans are rolling. That's the last piece of the puzzle. Shall we get to a safe place and go boom?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's turn on the gas.
Okie dokie.
All right, we got about 5 minutes. Let's get to the bunker. Fire in the hole.
Hopefully.
Actually, I think they need a new signal for us. It'd be like, fire in the hole, hopefully. Fire in the hole, hopefully.
Hopefully is right. The precise stoichiometric ratio should be enough to detonate their apartment. So our fire starters take cover as the methane fills the room.
We're down below 20 cubic feet per minute, and we're about 100 psi. So I'm thinking we should go whenever you're ready.
All right.
With the room filled with 9% methane, will this finally yield the Hollywood blowout?
All right, here we go. Ideal gas-air mixture, born explosion in 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah! That is awesome. We blew out the whole front.
Yeah.
We couldn't have done that if we planned.
That was perfect.
And there you have it. One magnificent, made-to-order apartment explosion. But unlike the movie detonation, this one is polite enough to put itself out. Well, almost.
I hope this is a cautionary tale what happens when you mix MythBusters with science.
Okay, here's the thing. While that was fairly exciting, I mean, we blew out the wall, I want to point out that we didn't break any glass. There was no bang. It was a whoosh. And that's something entirely different than what we saw in the movie. The fact that this was an ideally mixed mixture with fans and everything in the exact quantity, and that's the best we could do, kind of tells you what the real deal is. It's not what the movie showed.
Clearly, we were born for this job.
Yeah, but it's kind of too bad. That was a nice view in that house.
On this episode of MythBusters, buckle up for thrills, spills,
Oh, crap.
and chills.
I can't feel my fingers.
First, Adam and Jamie go all out for some spy car combat,
Oh, I got you. Oh, yeah. You want some of this?
testing whether wheels of misfortune
Not enough here.
and hood-mounted machine guns really work.
Swerve all you want, man. I can follow you!
Meanwhile, Carrie, Grant, and Tori get in a spin
MythBusters on ice!
as they find out if a bullet fired into a frozen lake can really spin like a top.
Now see, there's no string here.
It's a story that starts in San Francisco,
I don't see any spinning bullets.
but ends in a bitter battle as the MythBusters take on Mother Nature.
The next myth is in the Bahamas, right?
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage. Wow! And Jamie Heineman.
All right, it's party time.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Joining them, Grant Imahara,
For science.
Carrie Byron,
Right tool for the job.
and Tori Belleci. They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, buckle up for some spy car carnage.
Spy Car Revenge.
Spy Car Revenge.
Yeah, the original Spy Car was all about defensive weapons a spy might have in his car that could foil someone who's chasing him. Spy Car Revenge is about offensive weapons a chaser would have to disable a car he's chasing.
What do you have in mind?
I've got two things. The first one, spiky things that come out of the hubs of their wheels and tear up their opponent's cars while they're driving next to them.
Nice. What's the other one?
Guns mounted on the hood of the spy's car.
That's very cool. Let's start with the spikes first.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I'm all oiled up and ready to go.
In Spy Car Round 1, the guys evaluated evasion antics with mixed success. But this time, it's out with escape and in with attack. But can hood-mounted guns and hub-mounted wheel spikes really work first time, every time?
So, wheel spikes. There are tons of movies that have used that trick. We can't do all of them.
No, we can't. I think we should boil it down and pick two.
Well, there's a classic in Goldfinger. It's really simple. We've got to do that one.
And there's a really pretty nicely complex one in the Green Hornet I'd like to try out.
Sounds like we've got a plan.
I think we do.
And it's a plan that starts with a delivery for MythBusters' very own Q.
This car is going to be our chase car. When I'm done with it, it's going to be a vicious and aggressive car. In fact, I think I'm going to call it Slash, because that's what it's going to do.
With Slash sitting pretty, Jamie begins by building the first of the two wheel spikes, the deadly device from Goldfinger.
It's pretty simple, really. All it has is a blender-style blade, like this one that I cut out on the plasma cutter, attached to the end of a post. So I'll weld this on here like so, weld on the hub piece, and then sharpen the blades.
As slashers go, it's certainly simple.
Looks about right to me.
But will the chromoly steel be strong enough to not buckle under pressure?
Ouch!
Meanwhile, Tire Slasher 2 is anything but basic.
The Green Hornet device is a little more complicated. It has a bunch of spiky finger-like things that are welded to a central hub like so. Now, I've mocked all this up in wood so that I can get the geometry right. And then all I have to do is cut a bunch of steel pieces out like this, weld them all together, and I'm done.
In that case, let's cut to the chase, literally.
You ready to do this?
Are you ready to get slashed up?
Ha! You just try and catch me.
Enjoy it while it lasts, buddy.
While Adam spins out for no reason other than because he can, Jamie gets on with the odd job in hand, attaching the Goldfinger Slinger.
This blade looks pretty nasty, and I'm positive it'll take out an Adam's tire. But when it comes to meeting something stronger, like his wheel or steel parts of the body, I'm not so sure, because this is a pretty long lever, and that means it could get bent. Now, with that in mind, I did make this out of chromoly steel, which is very, very strong, but What it actually does, we're just going to have to try it to find out.
And to do just that, the guys are establishing some very precise rules of engagement.
This story is all about how much damage Jamie's spikes will do to my car. I'm not going to avoid him. I'm going to drive at a constant speed while he pulls up and does as much damage as he can. So, from the green flag, the two cars will accelerate to 40 miles an hour. When they hit the red flag, Jamie will engage the weapon into the driver's side of my car. He'll have 500 yards to inflict as much damage as he can. My prediction? I don't think this Goldfinger spike is gonna do much more than carve up the side of my car. I don't think it's gonna take me out. Dude, nice Goldfinger spike.
Pretty nasty, huh?
Totally.
Are you ready for it?
Absolutely.
With the first spike locked and loaded, let's get the show on the road.
Okay, Goldfinger spike in 3, 2, 1.
Both cars accelerate towards the red flag of the engagement zone. And once there, the carnage can begin. Jamie's first bump tears through the car door. The second shreds the tire like the proverbial knife through butter. And that loss of traction brings Adam's car to a slow stop.
You all right there, little buddy?
You totally disabled me.
Meaning that for the James Bond simple spike, it's pretty much mission accomplished.
Wow. Dude, that is beautiful. That was crazy effective.
Yeah, it sliced right through the rear of the car and went into the tire, no problem.
That was a hell of an adrenaline rush. I have never been in a purposeful accident. Especially not one where the person I was driving next to wanted to cause damage to me. Oh, that's really scary. My leg is right on the other side of this. Check that out. And it took out this tire magnificently. I had no idea that this method would be this effective.
Test 1's low-tech specs were a steely success. But can its more elaborate counterpart do any better?
Given the success of the Bond spike, you'd think that this monster would be a shoo-in, but I'm not so sure. It's much more complicated. There's more stuff to go wrong. Sometimes size isn't everything.
But will this be one of those times?
Right.
Well, let's roll test 2.
Dude, from here, those spikes look sick.
Well, are you ready to feel the touch?
I'm ready, let's do it.
Okay, Green Hornet in 3, 2, 1.
Like last time, the guys carefully accelerate. Because they want to know if the weapon works, not how easy it is to deploy.
All right, I'm at cruise control, going at 40. Here he comes. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, no.
Oh no is right. Any hope that this weapon's sting would be harmless is immediately abandoned.
Crap. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, let's have some more. Come on.
Despite Adam's fighting talk, one bump later, and his journey's brought to a premature end.
What did you do to me? Another successful destruction. Insane.
I think I'm getting a little better at this as I practice.
Yeah, you took that tire out pretty handily.
Yeah, I went in right about here and then started to go back until I hit the tire. I heard the bang.
Awesome.
The Green Hornet spike made mincemeat of Adam's car, opening it up like a sardine can and shredding the tire to pieces.
Oh, no.
But Jamie's not convinced.
Personally, I think this one is more show than anything else. I mean, it did take out the tire and it messed up the side of the car, but it really didn't do any more damage than the Bond one did.
Jamie's got a point, because both wheel spikes did more or less the same damage.
That felt like I got hit by a power tool.
And both brought Adam to a complete stop.
Oh, I lost all power.
But Jamie thinks there is room for improvement.
Both of our movie spikes work pretty well. The thing is, they're really pretty much just fancy tire poppers, because who cares if you put scratches or holes in the sheet metal? It's not really going to stop the car. Makes me wonder, though, what would?
And that's a thought that should have Adam very, very afraid. Next up, it's time to spin out.
Okay, so our next myth is based on a video clip that was sent in by a viewer, and it's kind of weird.
Ooh, do you still have the video? I want to see it.
Okay, not like that. There's a guy on a frozen lake bed with a bunch of his buddies shooting a 9mm into the ice, and somehow they get their bullets to just spin like a top.
Now that sounds like a myth.
And that's exactly why we're testing it.
It's no myth that a bullet fired from a handgun spins at over 80,000 RPM. But can a bullet fired into a frozen lake really spin like a top?
Now see, there's no string here.
In other words, is this video the real deal, or is this myth on thin ice?
Look, I gotta say, I got my doubts about this one.
Yeah, I know. This looks pretty bizarre, but I think it's worth testing.
I agree, but where are we gonna find a frozen lake bed? It's the middle of summer.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, and I think we've got to build our own frozen lake.
We've done crazier.
Yeah, and we should definitely try 2 different shots. Maybe we'll shoot one directly into the ice and then one as a ricochet and see if one of those gives us a spinning bullet.
Okay, let's do it.
But before anyone spins out, Tori's getting to grips with a gun grip or ransom rest, because for this myth, geometry is key.
Now, if this myth is true, the key element here is finding at which angle to fire the gun into the ice. So, I have my gun, I have my ransom rest. Now what I need to do is build a holder that is adjustable so we can fire at the ice at different angles.
Finding the right angle is vital. Too straight and the bullet will deform and not spin. Too shallow and the slug will skip off the ice and be lost forever.
Now, found out a little bit more about the shooter in the myth. Now, he's about 6 feet tall and shot about 6 feet in front of him. So, since Tori's 6 feet tall, I'm gonna have him stand in for the shooter. Okay, Tori, put your feet right at the line. I'm gonna have him hold the gun and aim at 6 feet. Here's a laser pointer to help you find the 6-foot mark. Then I'm going to check the angle of the gun and the distance it is from the ground. Okay, that is about 42 degrees. And let's see what the height is. About 44.5 inches. With that information, we can put our ransom rest in the right place to get the results we're looking for.
Now we know where to set the ransom rest.
Well, at least where to start.
Yeah.
Knowing where to start is a start. And with the shooting rig ready to fire, they're off to take aim at this myth.
We're on the rifle range at the Chabot Gun Club, so we can recreate the circumstances of the spinning ice bullet.
In the myth, this event takes place on a frozen pond in the middle of winter. But because it's the middle of summer and we're in Northern California, frozen ponds are not in plentiful supply.
All right, bring in the ice!
But what we're gonna do is create our own using 9 40-inch by 24-inch by 10-inch thick solid ice blocks.
Okay, there we go.
MythBusters on ice.
All right, maybe not.
Putting those all together, and hopefully that amount of mass will be enough to create a spin.
It's certainly a large slice of ice, and the next best thing to a frozen lake.
Is it bad if you can't feel your fingertips?
They said this would be a cool myth. I didn't believe them.
Look at that, instant frozen lake.
I wouldn't say instant.
Good point.
So you'll notice that we've set up a frozen lake with a smaller ice cube in front of it. Now that's because if you watch the video, it's hard to tell if the bullet spins in a direct hit on the ice or via a ricochet. In other words, does it hit and spin, or does it hit, bounce, land somewhere else, and then spin?
Well, in search of said spin, the team's first going for the direct hit approach, firing straight into the ice cube with this.
What I have here is a Glock 9mm. Now this is the gun apparently used in the myth. We're about to fire a bullet into the ice to see if it will actually spin like a top. I can't wait to see what happens.
The Glock is positioned in Tori's angle finder to 42 degrees, and then it's go time.
Okay, so we're gonna fire and then look and listen for any sort of spinning bullet.
All right, this is spinning bullet at 42 degrees.
In 3, 2, 1.
The gun fires, the ice shatters. But what happens to the bullet?
Well, we hit the ice, but no spinning bullet.
Yeah, look how much it fractured.
I bet it's right in there.
Carrie's spot on. The bullet hit the ice and simply embedded itself deep inside, where a spin is out of the question. But undeterred, the Mythbusters decide to try again.
All right, gun is loaded, we're hot.
Let's do this.
Round 2. 3, 2, 1.
It's another 42-degree hit, but with the same result.
I don't see any spinning bullets.
But all is not lost.
Okay, we're 0 for 2, but you know what? That's fine, because it doesn't always work in the viral video. Not every shot yields a spin, so we can't call it just yet.
In 3, 2, 1.
Test 3 also has nothing akin to a spin. But when they recover the round, there is cause for cautious optimism.
Oh my gosh, but look at this. The bullet has not deformed, which means there might be some truth to this myth. That could potentially spin.
But with test 4,
Where is the elusive spinning bullet?
5,
It's not here.
6, and 7 also failing to spin out, that optimism soon melts away.
Sun's coming out, the lake's melting, still no spinning bullets.
Meaning it's time for a plan B.
So the direct hit experiment isn't really giving us anything. So we're going to change our firing angle and try for the ricochet. We're going to fire into the ice block and hope to catch a spinning bullet on the larger frozen lake. This is not going to be easy.
So far in the spy spike department, we have tested the Goldfinger spike, which did this kind of damage. We have also tested the Green Hornet spike. Oh crap, oh no! Which did this kind of damage. Oh, that's great! Now apparently, Jamie's rigged up some kind of special Heinemann sauce to come at me with one last time.
Even though Adam was psyched by the spikes,
I'm going home.
Jamie saw room for improvement.
I don't think he's going to make it very far.
So he slipped back to the shop to conjure up a wheel of misfortune straight from the Heinemann House of Horrors.
I think that'd hurt another car if you drove into it.
And back at the runway, with nuts tightened, it's time to put it to the test.
This design is about the worst thing I could come up with. What's different about it is that the other designs all had relatively long, skinny shafts with a cutting blade on the tip. And those shafts could bend. The little blades that were on the tip could also bend or dull relatively easily, and they did. Whereas this has this massive base that's very strong. So I reckon this will go right into the car and just keep on cutting without damaging itself.
You are one sick puppy.
Ruff.
That is messed up. How damaging do I think Jamie's slasher is going to be to my car? Well, let me put it this way. We've bolted it to the side of Jamie's car that will affect the non-driver side of my car. That's how afraid we are of its destructive power.
Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, the slasher. In 3, 2, 1.
For the final time, the Mythbusters motor down the runway until the red flag signals the bullish Jamie to charge. Straight away, he takes out Adam's rear tire. Then he slices and dices along the whole side.
Oh! Come on, Jamie, I can take more.
With Adam at his mercy, Jamie goes in for the kill. And rips the entire front tire clean off. Leaving only one possible outcome.
That was too much fun! Woo! That fulfills like a deep childhood fantasy. I want another car. I want to do this again.
It was a heavy metal massacre in the truest sense of the word.
I gotta see this.
I think I messed your car up a little bit. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what I was thinking.
That is a horror. Where's my tire? My tire is not there. That was like the amusement park ride from hell. First, he takes out this tire. Forget about what he does to my door. I saw glass like fly up, like popcorn. Then he removes my entire front tire. I wouldn't have said that was possible. If you'd told us we had to do that, we would have said, it's really unlikely. And his spike still looks perfect.
I'd say my spike was pretty effective. I mean, there's not a whole lot more that you could do to the side of a car. Not only did I pop the tires, but I completely removed them. The car can't move at all now because the chassis is sitting on the ground, in fact. It worked a little better than I thought it would.
Final analysis of wheel spikes as a viable method of taking out an opponent while driving. Everything we tried worked better than we thought it would.
That means it's confirmed.
Totally confirmed. Let's get out of here.
With Spy Myth 1 a slashing success, it's time to bring out the big guns. Is this firearms film the real deal? Or just bullet baloney? Can a slug really spin like a frozen top?
3, 2, 1.
Well, the MythBusters' direct hit approach was shot down.
I don't see any spinning bullets.
So it's time to modify the method.
So far, the direct shot did not work. So we're gonna move on to the ricochet, which brings into play our larger frozen lake bed. What we're gonna do is lower the angle of the shot, hopefully allowing the bullet to skip off the ice onto our frozen lake bed, and we'll see if we can get that bullet spinning. Sounds easy? It won't be.
So it may sound to you like we're trying to find the equivalent of a needle in a haystack. But we actually have information from the guy who supposedly did this. And what he told us is that every time he tried it, the bullet landed between 2 and 8 feet from the point of impact with the ice. We have a 10-foot slab of ice out there. Surely that's gonna be enough to find that bullet somewhere in there.
Well, to find out, they're starting by using a ricochet-friendly angle of 30 degrees.
Hoping this works. In 3, 2, 1.
It's a clean hit, but the bullet's gone AWOL. It's not on the pond, nor in the cube.
Wait a minute, that's good news, because the bullet isn't in there. It did ricochet, I don't know where it went, but at least it popped out.
Right.
The high speed confirms that on the one hand, they did get a ricochet. But on the other, the bouncing bullet did not land on their lake. So they reset for try 2.
All right, let's go before spring comes.
But again, the bullet disappears.
The good news is we got a ricochet. The bad news, we can't find the bullet anywhere. It's nowhere on the lake bed. So that's why we have this. This backboard with the white paper is gonna tell us. If the bullet hits this, we'll know exactly where it goes. All right, we're hot.
That's the theory.
Is this the magic formula?
But in practice,
1.
even the ricochet catcher doesn't catch the ricochet.
So it must be firing way over our backboard.
So next, the team wrangles the angle. But whether it be high,
All right, we are loaded 45 degrees.
1.
low,
31 degrees.
or somewhere in between,
All right, we are locked and loaded at a 38-degree angle.
the ricocheting round never lands on the lake.
And I don't see a spinning bullet.
I don't see the ricochet at all.
Anything?
Backboard's clean.
You know, we can be here all day.
We have been here all day.
And what a frustrating day it's been. But without finding a single ricochet, it's just not possible to call the myth one way or the other.
We've been experimenting all day to find the perfect conditions to create the mythical spinning bullet. Now we have the right temperature of ice, the right hardness. Unfortunately, we have an extremely unpredictable ricochet. We can't find where the bullet lands. Now, we've created the biggest frozen pond that we possibly could in summer with all of the available ice that we could source. We need to go bigger. We need something a little more naturally huge and frozen.
In Spy Car: The Revenge, wheel spikes were a rip-roaring success.
Not enough yet.
So now it's on to Secret Agent Anecdote number 2.
Car-mounted guns.
Yes, I've been saying this for years, that car-mounted guns for a spy car don't make any sense to me. They're fixed. You cannot aim them except by driving. That's got to be a huge inefficiency for a machine gun.
Well, I have seen some that are remote-controlled and aimable, though.
Those are in the minority, but I have seen them, so I think we should build a rig that gives us both. I chase you with fixed guns on my hood, and then we can do a second one where I chase you with a remote control aimable gun mounted to the hood of my car.
Sold.
The hood-mounted gun is a staple for any spy car, but is it a viable weapon? Can such a device, fixed or movable, really guarantee an accurate aim? Well, to find out, Adam's already selected his wheels and his weapon.
This is a former police car, and this is a super high-end 10 round per second paintball gun. I'm gonna join these two things together to make two great tastes in one candy bar.
Fabricating the fixed firearm will be a weld in the park. But the remote-controlled firer is a much tougher task.
So for the aimable gun, I need to first build a mount that will let the gun move in 3 dimensions so I can fire at Jamie's car wherever it might be. There's the basics right there. Up, down, side to side. Then I'm gonna add a joystick system so that I can control the gun's aim from inside the car while driving. That's XY control. Next comes the all-important trigger, so I'll be able to shoot up to 600 rounds per minute. I press this, it ought to fire. That's remote firing. Finally, I'm going to add a camera onto the mount and a monitor onto the dashboard so I can see exactly where I'm aiming. This camera is what turns this from something cool into something awesome. Jamie, come here, check it out.
Wow.
Push, 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 push. In your face!
That looks great. Actually, I should say, it looks like crap, but it works great.
And with those words of encouragement, Adam gets on with the final part of his firearm. A frame that should feed a plethora of paintballs into the gun. It's not pretty, but will it work?
So wish you were me right now.
All right, so where do we stand?
Well, we've got 2 issues. 1, we can't get a spin from a direct hit, and 2, we can't find a ricochet.
Not only that, this is supposed to be easy. I mean, in the video, the guy shoots, he gets spinning. That's not what we found at all.
Not so fast. Check this out. You're not gonna believe what we found. Now, the cameraman was going through some of the footage. Now listen, can you hear that? I don't know what that is, but it could potentially be a spinning bullet. I mean, we can't see it, but we can definitely hear something.
Okay, well, that brings this myth back from the dead. I think we should definitely stick to our plan.
And the plan being, we wait until winter and try this again on an actual frozen lake where we might have a chance of this working.
All right, let's reconvene in 6 months.
So after a summer spent crashing, smashing,
Well, that didn't suck.
and splashing, the team is back for Spinning Ice Round 2. And this time, they're augmenting the audio.
Hearing is going to be key to finding the spinning bullet. So I want to come up with a low-tech way to amplify my hearing. So I'm going to make cones that are going to be able to like muffle out all the peripheral audio and directionally be able to give me that little buzzing sound of the spinning bullet.
You know what else we could use it for?
What?
Aw. Go sit in the corner.
So while Carrie's going old school, I like to bet on the tech. This device right here is a parabolic reflector. It captures the sound waves and focuses them on a microphone in the center, which is then amplified. Surely, this will be able to hear a spinning bullet from across a frozen lake.
While Grant and Carrie get their ears to the ground,
Did you say kumquat?
That's awesome!
Watermelon, this definitely works.
Tori's been busy with the science of the spin.
Now, if these bullets are actually spinning on ice, and it's not just a hoax, one of the reasons why this might be happening is it's acting like an ice skate. When the blade hits the ice, it melts the ice, creating a water barrier to allow the skate to move across the ice. This might be happening with the bullet. The bullet hits the ice, the heat from the bullet is melting the ice, creating a vapor barrier, and the spinning is coming from the rifling of the gun. So when it hits the ice, it spins just like a top. And that's why this myth might have some merit.
That's the theory, and once the ear devices sound ready,
Hippopotamus!
it's time to put it to the test. From the San Franciscan sun to a blizzard in the Sierra Nevada, this winter the team is going that extra mile.
Save yourselves!
Rumor has it there's a lake out here.
I think it's over there.
Yeah, this looked a little more picturesque in the brochures.
All right, so what I have behind me is a frozen lake. I know it doesn't really look like it. It looks more like a snowfield. We're at 7,900 feet. The temperature is 10 degrees. This is exactly what we need to test this myth. The only problem is we're in the middle of a snowstorm. I'm freezing my off.
Our next myth is in the Bahamas, right?
Yeah.
Despite Tori's optimism, the temperature of his nether regions is certainly not the only problem.
Look, so building our own frozen lake was problematic, but compared to this, it was child's play. Here is what we're up against. Our blast shields, which we left out overnight, are now buried under 6 feet of snow. Our paramedic can't get here because the road's closed, but worst of all, the lake is buried under 3 feet of snow, which means before we do any shooting, we've got to dig to get down to the ice.
And as the weather goes from bad to worse,
I've already dug 2 feet. I haven't even seen ice yet.
that digging gets harder and harder.
It's like we keep digging it out, and Mother Nature just keeps filling it back in.
So Carrie brings in reinforcements.
Since we're digging at high altitude and fighting 40-mile-an-hour gusty winds, we've decided to bring in a few helpers, like the sheriff who lives up here, and maybe a few others.
With all hands on deck, the team exposes enough ice before anyone gets exposure.
All right, so the good news is, if you can call anything good news in these kinds of conditions, we found the ice. So now we're ready to start testing. Now remember, this myth is about shooting a 9mm into a frozen lake bed and finding the bullet spinning like a top. Seems kind of counterintuitive to fire into the ice that you're standing on, but I mean, this isn't MythBusters.
We've gone to great efforts to make this myth work, including getting high-tech hearing devices, low-tech ear trumpets. But as you can see by the horizontal snow zooming past the camera, there is a huge amount of wind, and that is all we're going to hear in those hearing devices. So, we're going old-fashioned. We're running, we're listening.
But will that technique be good enough to locate the mythical spin?
All right, this is Spinning Ice Bullet in 3, 2, 1.
At an abandoned military base, Adam and Jamie are about to unleash the beast.
It is a perfect day for chasing.
And shooting.
Indeed.
As they test whether a spy car's hood-mounted howitzer can ever be accurate.
Oh yeah, great big.
But first up, like all good spy scientists, they're starting with a control.
As long as we're shooting between cars, we thought it would be a good idea to start with a baseline, the most common way you see people shoot between cars in the movie, in which during a car chase, the driver of the chasing car will start firing at the person that he's chasing. In this case, I will be that driver, and this will be my handy service revolver, and Mr. Heineman, well, He'll be my grizzled partner.
And last but not least, police driver Brian Fraser will play the target in a car that has been specially modified for the role.
Unfortunately, we can't use real bullets for these tests. So with that in mind, we've removed the rear windshield because those paintballs will be able to pass clean through just like a bullet would. And if they hit, then they'll show up like so on the helmet. We've also painted the rest of the car a light gray so that we can see that same orange paint, and we've covered the wheel wells so that, well, the paint won't sling off the tires.
With everything primed, it's time to lay down a benchmark of point and shoot that the spy gun can then aim to beat.
Okay, this is shooting the gun out the window. Brian, you may escape when ready. Oh, it's on! Okay.
Adam will have one clip or 14 bullets to take down the target.
It's hard to drive one-handed, I'll tell you that.
As Brian dodges and weaves, Jamie keeps a tally of how many rounds Adam's let rip.
4.
And how many have hit their target.
Come on, 12. You haven't even hit the car yet.
It's fair to say that this is a lot harder than it looks. Can Jamie do any better?
Wait, you want to go?
Yeah.
All right, we got 14 shots. All right, now I'm gonna get on it.
All right, let's see what I got.
If you're talking shooting handguns out of a car, obviously the driver could do it.
You're gonna let him get away? Come on!
But he's got other things to worry about, like driving the car.
That's 4 shots.
So for my money, I think the passenger is going to have better luck at it.
7, 8, 9,
It's a logical idea in theory.
11,
But in practice, Jamie is also finding it devilishly difficult.
13. Okay, one more shot. We make this count.
With only one shot left, Adam gets closer than ever.
I'm gaining on him. Here we go.
Jamie focuses. But all he hits is the bumper.
14, dude. That's your whole magazine. That's it.
We're done.
Firing the handheld gun out of the car proved to be far from ideal. It was more difficult than you would think. Now, not to say that it couldn't be done, but we were not able to stop the car or kill the driver.
Which begs the question, can the spy-inspired front-facing machine gun do any better?
This test is with the machine gun in a fixed position. What do I think is going to happen? Well, I've actually been saying this for years, and it's the reason I always wanted to do this test. I don't think I'm going to be able to be very effective at hitting Jamie. I've always thought that fixed machine guns on the hood of a car was a stupid idea.
Stupid, because as Target Jamie explains, they only fire straight ahead.
Now, Adam's goal is to take me out, and that means that he has to hit me in the head or he has to hit the tire of the car. Now, given that he's got no subtle control, it's only done by aiming the car, I think it's going to be almost impossible.
All right, Mr. Heineman, you may start whenever you think you're ready.
Okay, fixed gun.
In 3, 2, 1.
Like the last test, this trial will also end when the gun runs out of ammo.
Hold! Yeah, come to Papa.
But unlike the last test, this time Adam's got 400 paintballs to fire.
Here we go. See what you got.
At first, things pan out just as expected, as Adam fires miss after miss. Yet, slowly but surely, he starts to get his eye in.
I might have got hit, I'm not sure.
And pretty soon, the occasional hit turns into a relentless barrage of bullets.
There's bullets all over the windshield right near me, so I'm feeling pretty shot up, actually.
No matter what moves Jamie makes, Adam nails him every time. Until he's out of ammo.
Wow. What a horror show. I think I achieved my 00 status on this run. Agent Heineman has successfully been neutralized. Not only have I taken out the mud flap, not only have I taken out the trunk,
I'm feeling the spray.
with extreme prejudice, I've also got a clean hit to the back of his seat, a clean hit to his helmet,
I might have got hit, I'm not sure.
and I've destroyed his windshield and several of his side windows.
I want to hit the windshield.
So given that the gun itself couldn't move, how did Adam end up doing so well?
For the first third of the test, as I catch up to Jamie and he's swerving, it always seems that my bullet's going over his car. And I have this epiphany. If I smack on the brakes, the front of the car goes down, and I can actually aim that way. And it turns out I can aim plus or minus like 10 degrees that way. It was fantastic. I coupled that with swerving back and forth, and somewhere around halfway through this test, I found my level and just started laying paintballs into the driver's cabin of Jamie's car. It worked far better than I imagined it possibly could without having physically tried it.
So it turns out that the non-aimable gun can aim very well, provided you drive like a super spy.
So where do we go from here? Well, I have to admit something. I went into this test with some bias in my mind. I thought that the fixed machine gun was just not gonna work. I've said it my whole life. Fixed machine guns are stupid. They can't possibly work. And that's why I made this thing fully remote control, because I figured the test would go. We tried the fixed machine gun and it wouldn't work. Then we tried the moving one and it would work. I expected that result. But the fixed one worked. We were able to make it work and I was able to kill Jamie. So do we end it here? No! This puppy moves. We're gonna move it. I'm gonna try killing Jamie again. Just for fun.
Here we are on the Capo frozen lake with winds up to 25 miles an hour straight in your face. We got temperature lows about -30. And let me tell you, it does not look like it's gonna let up.
All of which is making for some seriously challenging testing.
So given the terrible conditions, here is our plan. We've positioned our gun at the 42-degree angle. We are triggering it with a string pull, and then we're gonna rush in to see if we can find the bullet. And given the whiteout, I think we're also gonna montage the results.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, this is spinning ice bullet in 3, 2, 1.
Run like the wind!
But unfortunately, it's another montage of failure.
Oh, here's the bullet.
But it's not spinning.
Not at all.
As hit after hit
I don't see any spinning bullets.
misses out on the spin.
I can't feel my fingers, and I can't see any bullet.
As the temperature dips to 5 degrees Fahrenheit,
2, 1.
morale is just as low.
This bit sucks.
But Tori wants to try one more thing.
Now, there's a couple of things that we think are happening. One is maybe the bullets are hitting the ice and skipping off into the snow, or maybe the bullets are hitting the ice and actually bouncing back into the snow. So what we're gonna do is change the target area closer to the center of our ice patch, take a shot and see if we can find a bullet and see exactly what is happening to these things.
With hypothermia a very real possibility, it really is now or never. Will giving the bullet room to ricochet backwards rather than forwards finally spin out?
Okay, this is spinning ice bullet with room to bounce backwards. In 3, 2, 1.
Come on! Open it! It's spinning!
It's spinning!
Look at that!
We got a spinning bullet!
Holy crap, it worked!
It's the shot that brought this myth back from the cold.
I can't believe it worked! I can't believe we got a spinning bullet.
At last, after countless attempts, they got the spin they were after. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, if we can get one spinning bullet, that was successful. Let's do it again. In 3, 2, 1.
It's spinning! Woo! That's the second one in a row!
And when it's 3 for 3,
It is spinning!
That is continued success. We have gotten one after the other to spin.
you might say they're on a roll.
So we had to make a few adjustments on the fly. We had to play with the angle, and we pulled the gun back away from the ice. And what we think this does is lowers the velocity of the round when it hits the ice, so that you get more of a ricochet spinning and less of a glancing going off into nowhere.
Spinning again!
We've done this over and over. This myth is confirmed.
Confirmed.
I cannot believe how well this is working.
We tried creating an ice lake bed that we could shoot into back at home, but it really did take this sort of extreme weather for us to get a spinning bullet. It was all worth it. The 70-mile-an-hour winds, the 10 degrees, the frozen toes, and the Grant sickle.
And with that, It's time to get warmed up.
Where's that rescue party?
We are the rescue party.
At Spy Car Mission Control,
Come to Papa.
the forward-facing firearm just took out its target and then some.
Well, that worked beyond my wildest dream.
So what's next?
Now it's time to unlock what I thought was going to be the secret potential power of this rig, which is from inside the car, I can control an XY axis wherever this gun fires. I can put paintballs where I want to put them.
Adam did pretty well with the fixed gun, and it makes sense that he should be able to do even better with an aimable gun. But the thing is, this adds a little bit of multitasking that he has to do, so it might actually have the opposite effect.
In the locked-off test, when all Adam had to do was drive and pull a trigger, he nailed it. But in the control, where multitasking was more of an issue,
It's hard to drive one-handed, I'll tell you that.
Adam failed to fire, which doesn't bode well.
You haven't even hit the car yet.
What do I think is going to happen on this test? I felt like this was going to be a better test than the previous one before we started this whole business, but now I've been so wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if we found out it was harder.
Okay, aimable gun in 3, 2, 1.
For the final time, the guys put their pedals to the metal.
Oh, the game is afoot. Here we go.
Do your best, buddy.
Come on, Heinemann. You are mine.
Rather than unleashing bullets from the get-go, on this run, Adam bides his time,
Oh, Mason Heinemann.
lining up the target thanks to his gun's camera and the dashboard's monitor.
Oh, I'm so on you.
And only when Jamie weaves into the crosshairs
Swerve all you want, man. I can follow you.
does Adam unleash hell.
Oh, the aiming is awesome. Oh, I totally got you. Look at that, I took out Julia.
With radar-like precision, the bullets are propelled to do maximum damage.
I'm ahead.
So much so that this time, Jamie gives up the ghost.
Oh, yeah.
With Adam having fired off just 60 rounds.
Woo! That was awesome. I got you.
I don't know, did you? Is it marked on my head?
It's perfect. It's not quite a bullseye, but I got 3 beautiful shots in the back of your head. So is making my hood-mounted machine gun aimable more effective? I think the entire story is told from right where I'm standing. If you look at this car after this test and compare it to what this car looked like after my fixed machine gun test when it was riddled with paint, you can just see that this is a far more surgical and effective way to take somebody out.
Ain't that the truth? Using fewer bullets to chalk up more kill shots, the aimable gun is the winner of this Cold War.
Well, I think from all this testing, we can conclude that a machine gun on the hood of your car equals good. As a secret agent weapon, even the stationary machine gun was far more effective than I thought it would be.
Yeah, but their effectiveness seems to be largely due to the sheer volume of bullets they're able to spew out. I mean, sooner or later, they're gonna hit something.
Okay, but isn't that always the point of a machine gun?
Indeed it is, mon frere.
On this episode of MythBusters, the Heinemann and Captain Redbeard take a swing at a pirate movie myth.
It's another remote control rig for making Jamie dance.
Knock yourself out, buddy.
Imprisoned inside a bone cage, can you swing across a ravine
I think I'm gonna throw up.
Uh-oh.
and climb to safety?
Drat!
Meanwhile, Carrie, Tori, and Grant roll out the mythical barrel,
Gives a whole new meaning to fire in the hole, doesn't it?
testing the urban legend that a drum, methanol, and a flame could send a barrel ballistic
That thing might explode!
and turn a go-kart turbo. Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
and Jamie Heineman.
We're going to have an adventure.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Together with Tori Belleci,
Let's torch this thing!
Grant Imahara,
Save yourselves!
and Carrie Byron.
Best job ever!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, Adam and Jamie get savvy with a movie myth.
Great. Pirates again.
Yes, pirates. What could be the matter with that?
Well, what's the story?
All right, the story we're doing this time comes from Pirates of the Caribbean 2. There's this sequence in which our heroes are imprisoned in a cage. It's sort of like a hamster ball made of bones that's hanging in a ravine. It's quite similar to this toy, released in conjunction with the film. At any rate, they start using their body weight to swing this bone cage over to the side of the cliff and catch onto it, holding onto the vines. Then they're able to climb the cliff using the vines and engineer their escape. That's what we've got to do.
You're not going to be using that pirate voice the whole time, are you?
I don't have to, but I like to. Some of the time, at least.
By rattling their cage, this band of buccaneers swings to the cliff. But do the filmic physics check out? Could you really create enough momentum to swing high and then peg-leg it up a precipice?
So what's the plan?
Well, everything about this story involves the bone cage, so I think we need to start there. And it's got to be pretty strong because in the movie it's holding up to 6 people, and I think we should plan for that.
And it's got to be really light because we're going to have to haul it up a cliff.
Exactly, and it should look like bones. I think we can achieve that.
Let's go downstairs and build it.
All right.
Ultimately, the MythBusters will be incarcerated inside a bone cage.
Right, Jamie, I'm ready for testing.
Whoa!
But first, they've got to create it.
All right, so how are we going to do this thing?
They need a design light enough to swing, but strong enough to hold a band of pirates.
What about if we started with a pumpkin-like kind of way of building it and then build it up from there to a certain point?
A pumpkin-inspired steel frame should make the cage sturdy.
So if this is 6 adults, let's say 200 pounds each, when this is all said and done, I'm thinking we're looking at a total payload here of about 1,500 pounds.
Yeah.
And to trim the payload, the guys take the dimensions down to a tight squeeze of 8 feet.
All right, cool. This is a good plan.
That's their bone cage blueprint. So now to get the ball rolling.
Like butter.
Like butter.
There you go. Ta-da! That is beautiful.
105.
Great.
8 struts are bent and welded together to form a giant pumpkin-like globe.
This is our sphere, or at least it will be. And right now it's kind of flimsy, but by the time we're done with it, we're gonna triangulate all over the place and it'll be kind of like a organic geodesic dome, and it should be quite sturdy.
Yep, the lattice work of steel supports is welded into place to strengthen the ball. And although it looks simple, it's engineered to ensure that failure is not an option.
We've gone with this construction method, the lightweight thin wall steel tube and washers at every apex, to make this thing super strong because we're going to hang 6 people in it. But we also want it to be as light as possible. We've got to try and walk it up the wall at the end.
When I'm evil overlord, I will certainly keep my prisoners in something just like this.
And I think we've done it. But to make sure, we're going to hang it from the ceiling. Jamie and I are going to get inside of it and see how we feel. We're also going to try and swing it and see if that's remotely possible.
Like a steampunk Cinderella, Adam needs to test out his giant pumpkin before the pirate ball.
Whoa! Oh, holy crap. Yeah, all right, come on in.
This is a crucial proof of concept.
Well, it certainly seems like it's supporting us.
And it's so far so good.
And back.
So now, will it swing?
Out and back. And out
It's swinging.
Yeah.
Hey, it's working.
Surprisingly, getting the cage to move appears to be child's play.
This is like my dream jungle gym when I was 10 years old.
But will it be this easy when they take it full scale?
This isn't bad. Well, Jamie and I have run our bone cage through enough paces where we're really confident in it from a mechanical and safety standpoint. Now the only question is, it doesn't quite look like a bone cage. So now we're gonna do a little aestheticizing of it.
Seems like we're spending a lot of time pulling tape off of rolls these days.
And it's gonna give us some padding so we're not beating our hands against the steel.
And once the cage is padded, it's time to bone up. The skulls and crossbones give it that cinematic, cannibalistic feel.
Yeah, man, that tells the story.
Yeah.
And before long, the cage is fit for a pirate.
It's done?
It's done.
Can we get it out of here?
Sure. All right.
Now to get to the bottom of a ballistic barrel.
Okay, so I've got a myth about oil drums, go-karts, and jet fuel.
Gee, sounds like a recipe for disaster to me.
Pretty much. Okay, this is a myth that comes from some of our European fans. Apparently this guy was watching a video about whoosh rockets on the internet.
Oh yeah, those are those things where instead of using water pressure for thrust, they use jet fuel, right?
Yeah, well, this guy was watching something like you described, but he decided he was gonna take it up a notch by using a 55-gallon oil drum, strapping it to a go-kart, and adding jet fuel.
And don't tell me. He jumps on, lights it, and goes for the ride of his life.
At crazy speeds.
Well, if this works, I say we all go for a ride, huh?
Of course you do.
The details of this urban myth are surprisingly precise. 4 gallons of methanol inside a 55-gallon drum plus a flame. And you'll get the rocket ride of your life. But is a breakneck barrel run realistic, or is this all hot air?
All right, on the surface, this sounds pretty straightforward to test. We take a go-kart, strap a 55-gallon drum to it, fill it with fuel, jump on it, light it, and go.
Or we don't jump on it, we light it remotely, and we stand really far back.
Yeah, that's probably safer.
Now, it's not all that outlandish to think that someone would supersize this concept into a full-size barrel, because the whoosh rocket is a fairly common science demonstration. Let me show you. Take your methanol, agitate, and ignite. Just like that. What happens is that you ignite the vapor inside of the bottle, those expanding gases push out of the nozzle, that creates thrust, and it sends you right across the parking lot.
But the question is, if you supersize those ingredients, will you get the crazy speeds of the myth?
Okay, yeah, it rolls. This will work.
This is gonna be awesome.
To get the drum rolling, it's off to location.
A jet go-kart with methanol. I love it. We've come out to the Alameda County Sheriff's Bomb Range so that we can test our methanol go-kart, which basically requires a 55-gallon drum.
Oh. So it rolls.
Fashioned like a go-kart and powered with 4 gallons of methanol as per the myth. I'm really curious to see if this is gonna shoot down the road or possibly just blow up into a million pieces.
Don't worry, this ain't gonna hurt a bit.
With a risk-taking rider strapped on, it's time to add the mythical methanol to the mix.
All right, that's 4 gallons. Let's agitate it a little bit.
Just like the mini whoosh rocket, the fuel needs a nudge.
Looks like you've done this before.
Agitate? Yes.
To create a potentially explosive mix with the air.
Go.
Finally, Grant fits a flare to a remote control car to trigger ignition and possibly send the barrel rocketing.
All right, here we go. This is barrel go-kart. In 3, 2, 1. We have achieved the hole. The fire is in the hole.
It doesn't look like it's going in the hole.
Ignition.
Fire in the hole! I think it's in the hole there.
Yeah.
Unlike the myth, the flare doesn't ignite the fuel and the cart goes nowhere.
That was anticlimactic.
Anticlimactic is an understatement.
The car may be on fire.
But if at first you don't succeed,
Maybe the guy in the myth just got lucky and had the right air to fuel ratio, so that way when he did introduce the flame, it took off flying.
There you go.
So we're gonna reset. This time we're gonna agitate the barrel a little bit longer, and we're gonna put the flare inside the barrel. Gives a whole new meaning to fire in the hole, doesn't it? Hopefully this time we'll get enough thrust and this thing gets fired up.
In theory, more agitation should mean a more explosive mix of fuel and air. But will it get them a rocket barrel?
Fire in the hole in 3, 2, 1. Hey!
There's a little bit of
No, it's still going. It's still going. Push the barrel out, and it actually ran up the road a little.
It's not going to beat any land speed records. But the team has not even scraped the bottom of this ballistic barrel.
You know what I'd like to see now? I think we should take this to small scale and find out if we have the perfect amount of fuel. Maybe less, maybe more, if we could actually get enough thrust to make the go-kart go.
All right, so back to the shop.
Back to the shop.
At the end of their rope, 6 scurvy dogs sway themselves to freedom. But is this daring filmic feat a swing and a myth? To find out, Adam and Jamie have picked their bones. So now to get them suspended.
If we're going to test this ball of bones swing from Pirates of the Caribbean, we're going to need a big cliff.
Found one!
That ought to do.
I'm standing in the fire training tower of the Santa Rosa Fire Department. This is a building they repeatedly set on fire and then put out. It's 75 feet tall, and it makes a perfect configurable cliff face for our swinging bone cage experiments.
It's the perfect cliff face, and coupled with a 40-ton crane, the MythBusters can replicate the dimensions of the movie.
From our analysis of the footage we can see in the film, we've determined that the bone cage is hanging from a rope that's 80 feet long, and that's what we've set up.
When the ball meets the cliff, the angle of its cable will be about 25 degrees.
Take those two numbers, 25 degrees and 80 feet, plug them into Pythagoras' theorem, and you come up with a distance from the wall of 34 feet. That is how far we are, and that's how far we've got to swing.
With 34 feet their target distance, it's time to get into the swing of things.
What's next?
Well, this is about pirates, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't see any pirate costume.
Oh, ye of little faith. Give me a second.
Right, Jamie, I'm ready for testing.
What, no gold teeth?
Ah, crap, I forgot about that part.
Right, let's get in.
Okay.
Captain Redbeard is keen,
Right, here I go.
which is surprising when you consider what gentle rocking usually does to him.
Now, when we're swinging to and fro in the ball, I don't expect that I'll get seasick, but I've been wrong before.
No, we gotta stop. I hate this chair.
This may be another one.
Possibly, but only time will tell.
It's much more fun when you're wearing a proper outfit.
Well, you wanna try your swing thing like we did in the shop with just our legs dangling through?
Yeah.
All right,
Ready?
yeah,
Okay.
so.
Freshly imprisoned, the scurvy dogs try to strike up some momentum.
This is without a doubt the strangest dance we've ever done.
By moving back and forth, they should create enough push to get to the wall.
Come on. Come on.
But unlike their success in the shop, they're not budging.
I have an idea.
So they change tactics to the standing swing.
Whoa!
Oh, ah. I almost lost me hat. That would have been ugly.
Grab my arm like this. Now, what if I went like this, and then you came like that and let go over there?
In theory, to get the bone cage swinging, Adam and Jamie need to raise and lower the center of gravity of the ball by using their own mass.
Come on. We don't seem to be moving at all.
We're pushing in the right direction.
It's not working.
However, so far, no matter how they throw their weight around, it's not enough to get a significant swing. Adam even tries thinking outside the cage,
That's more promising.
but cheating still doesn't get the ball rocking.
I'm not sure, Jamie. We seem to have a lot more luck in the shop than we are here, and I thought it'd be easier on the longer arm.
Yeah, it seems like it might actually be harder.
It does.
And the lack of swing isn't the only problem.
I think I'm gonna throw up.
Uh-oh.
I'm having a kind of a powerful, nauseous reaction.
Well, why don't you hop out?
Yeah.
With Adam benched from ball cage duty, it's over to Jamie to swing solo.
Well, Adam threw in the towel. He got a little seasick, I guess. So I'm gonna see if I can do anything by myself. The idea being that if you remove the variables, maybe you can figure out what actually makes this thing work. Adam being a variable, which he usually is.
And although Jamie experiments with a variety of techniques, the problem remains the same.
I don't seem to be having a lot of luck getting this thing to swing from a dead stop, but then it weighs more than I do, so maybe the problem is that there's not enough mass moving around to dominate what it does. In the movie, after all, they had a number of people doing this, and so maybe that's what we need to do.
Maybe, because although the dimensions match the movie, their mass doesn't.
What's next?
Next is more bodies.
More bodies! More bodies!
Inspired by the internet, supposedly this drum daredevil filled his barrel go-kart with fuel, lit a match, and took off at incredible speeds. But so far, getting that rocket-powered rush
That's kind of anticlimactic.
hasn't been that easy. So the MythBusters have come back to the shop to replicate the barrel rodeo in small scale and test the parameters one by one.
Yeehaw!
Starting with fuel, how much methanol gets optimal thrust?
Let's agitate it a little bit.
First off, they're trying the same ratio as the Myth, 7%.
Fully agitated, ready to light.
This is totally how I played with dolls.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Hey!
We got some thrust.
Just like the range test, 7% didn't send the cart far. But will having the fuel change that?
All right, 3.5%. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Ooh.
We got about the same.
I know, not much difference.
3.5% gives them the same result, so they take the fuel ratio all the way down.
Now, in the past, when we've used gases to create some sort of thrust, like a propane rocket, we found that once we got down to just fumes and used just a little bit of fuel, we actually got a lot of thrust. So I expect the less fuel we use, the more fumes, and we're actually gonna see this rocket shoot down the track.
Next, we're going to go down to 0.1%, so that's almost all vapor. My expectation, it's going to shoot down the track. Don't know how far, but it should be pretty good.
In 3, 2, 1.
Oh. All right, well, it went about 2 feet, so we got some thrust.
The good news is that less than 1% doubled the thrust. The bad news is that it was still more of a putter than a projectile.
No matter what kind of air to fuel ratio we're coming up with, this thing is not rocketing like the myth talks about.
I don't really want to stop here. I want to see a rocket go-kart. I mean, can't we make some modifications?
Let's try some stuff and see what happens.
I like it.
Yep, although the myth clearly states that the barrel was unmodified, to give this rocket a fighting chance, it's time to bend the rules. And bend number 1 is to transform the liquid fuel into that flammable fuel vapor.
We're gonna try a new technique of agitating the methanol using air. Now that's gonna do 2 things. It's gonna introduce more oxygen and it's gonna create more fumes. Hopefully that combination will give us more thrust.
But that's not the only modification the guys have in mind.
We're gonna add a nozzle. This should accelerate the escaping gases and give us more thrust.
With a built-in agitator and thrust-focusing nozzle, will this mini barrel go ballistic?
All right, here we go. Bubbling up at 5 PSI. Oh, yeah, hit it again. Yeah, that nozzle's great.
It's a thrust in the right direction for the barrel.
Yeah!
The modifications triple the distance. The only problem is, after making it down the track in 3 blasts, it sets everything on fire.
It's still going.
Oh no!
Luckily, the safety officer is on hand to defuse the situation.
Well, that was exciting.
I mean, that thing could have kept going if the track hadn't caught on fire and everything got really dangerous.
Dangerous? Yes, but also a good start. So now the team can focus on making their mods safer and more efficient.
And we know that the nozzle improved our thrust, but as we go to full scale, the name of the game is optimization, using the energy that we have better. Now, my theory is that we're losing a lot of energy as the expanding gases have to turn this tight corner and then come out of the nozzle. So what I'm going to try is to make a funnel shape and relocate the bunghole to the center. That way the gases can expand smoothly, accelerate, and then come out the nozzle for even more thrust.
And while Grant is working on a more efficient nozzle, Tori's injecting some oomph into the fuel injection.
And this is what's going to be going on inside the barrel. Now, originally we had the fuel in the bottom of the barrel and we pumped air through it, creating vapors. But I thought it would be kind of cool if we introduced the fuel through an auto body spray gun. That way we're getting air and we're atomizing the methanol, making it much easier to ignite.
After optimizing the design, the barrel go-kart is rolled out once again.
Okay, this is longer nozzle with aerated fuel and cone. Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Amazingly, the combination of nozzle and aerated fuel propels the barrel 15 feet down the track.
We got some serious distance. I think it's time we take this full scale.
Yeah, I think that is the winning combo.
Oh yeah, we got the long nozzle, the aeration, the crazy cone shape. This is gonna be so cool when we get a large scale.
I think this is gonna work. How are we gonna stop it? That's the question.
After a lot of testing and several new improvements, we've gone from our simple barrel go-kart to this crazy thing here. We actually added a nozzle, a cone shape, and an aeration system for the fuel so that we could propel this little dude down the track 15 times the length of our go-kart. I think when we take this to full scale, we've got a really good chance at some really sick thrust.
Swing it. It's so easy, even a dog can do it.
Come on.
But that's not the case for our scurvy dogs.
I think I'm gonna throw up.
Uh-oh.
Which is why the MythBusters have drafted some help into service.
Well, we've assembled a new crew to escape from the bone cage. They've got over 53 years of circus experience among them. They're lithe, they're limber, they're scurvy dogs, and they're ready to help us get swinging.
Earlier, Adam and Jamie were a few mates short of a 34-foot swing.
Come on up and try it out for size.
But now, with 4 trapeze professionals and 2 MythBusters, they've got the 6-man crew of the film.
1, 2, 3.
Whoa. Wow.
And back. Go.
The question is, will the added mass mean they can swing to the cliff?
And back. Go. Well, it's swinging a little bit.
The pirate posses start with the movie method.
Back. Go.
You all right?
Yep. I got knee pads.
But that technique doesn't seem to have legs.
You okay?
Yep.
All right. Ready? One more time. Let's go back. What up?
All right, so the movie technique of running from side to side is totally not working here. First of all, we can't do it in unison, and we keep falling through the holes. So it's not very safe and not very effective. But we do know that in order to get this thing moving, we need to concentrate our efforts on changing the center of mass. Like a kid on a swing, we need to raise the center on the upswing and lower it on the downswing. That way, we might just be able to build the momentum we need to get the distance we want.
Yep, and to get to grips with that center of mass, they enlist a tie strap.
Push.
Yeah!
Creating a coordinated rhythm either side of the center of gravity that seems to get them swinging.
Weirdest workout ever.
Bend your knees. Push.
But after over 40 minutes of the old heave-ho, they're nowhere near the cliff.
At this point, we've had some success, but eventually we lose the battle. The cable and the sphere seem to be absorbing all of our energy into flexing and twisting and bobbing around instead of letting us focus it in one specific direction for the swing. So The only thing that we can think of to do is to shorten the cable. Hopefully that'll get us where we want to go.
Shortening the cable makes the change to the center of gravity in comparison to the length larger and should amplify the swing. But will it be enough?
Right, shorter cable, see if she swings.
Push it, push it, push it.
Initially, it seems that building up power is easier.
Oh, it seems to be working.
Bend,
That's it, you scurvy dog, swing!
bend.
But after another hour of effort, it's clear that they are sustaining rather than gaining momentum.
Are we any higher?
We've got several hours of testing into this already, and we can't make this swing of this thing improve. These guys, their whole business is about feeling the balance of something. They're trapeze artists and making it swing. And it seems right now like 6 humans worth of weight is just not enough mass to make this thing start to swing in bigger and bigger arcs. Guys, that was a fantastic effort. I feel like we're just not gonna get that thing swinging.
So it's just not your average trapeze swing. With this big, heavy cage to try to move it, it's just not possible.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any lighter than that.
No, if we can't make it work with these guys, we can't make it work. I think it's safe to say that swinging a bone cage with 6 people from inside, it's busted.
It's busted.
Busted.
Busted, but there's still more pirate pandemonium to come. Everyone knows things are better when they're turbocharged.
3, 2,
But the MythBusters'
1.
first ballistic barrel was anything but.
And nothing's happening.
However, after a few small-scale modifications, they've upped the thrust, and they're ready to take this myth full scale.
So now with our modifications in small scale, we've gotten our go-kart to rocket across the shop. But our design has evolved from a whoosh rocket into what's called a pulse jet. We know that a whoosh rocket ignites fuel in a chamber and the gases expand to create thrust. But after one big burst, it's pretty much over. The difference with the pulse jet is that the thrust is continuous. The escaping gases create an air of low pressure inside the chamber. Air is then sucked in to fill the gap, which starts the combustion again, so that the cycle of thrust will repeat as long as there's fuel and a source of ignition.
Indeed, but to supersize their pulse jet go-kart, there's a lot to do, starting with portable fuel injection.
Now for this to work, we need constant air entering the barrel. So, to make it portable, I'm gonna use a scuba tank. The air pressure coming out of here is 3,000 PSI. I need to get it down to 100 PSI so that it actually pump fuel through our spray gun. So what I'm gonna do is take this old regulator, put it to this regulator, and hopefully get it down to a safe enough pressure so we get the fuel injection into the barrel and this thing gets fired up. We're about to go diving into science. Come along for the journey. We have portable air.
With the fuel injection invention sorted, Carrie gets on a roll with the go-kart.
I'm designing the cart. Now I want this to roll really, really easily so that all the thrust can make it shoot down the runway. To do that, I'm going to use tires from a bicycle. I figure that has a low rolling resistance and it'll be a lot easier to just push it. Now I also want to make the cart really lightweight, so I'm going to use a minimal amount of material to try to create a cart that actually will have no problem turning into a rocket.
Carrie streamlined the design, but the main element of turning the go-kart rocket is the back end.
Now, given the success of the cone and the longer nozzle in small scale, we're gonna do exactly the same thing in large scale. Looks like a donut now, but soon it'll be a cone.
And while Grant gets bent out of shape, Tori creates the nozzle.
That's one big nozzle.
That is a cone. Luke, I am your father. Join me, and we can rule the universe together. Oh, hi.
I got a pipe for your hole.
With the nozzle and cone complete and the barrel on board, Carrie decides to add a little personality.
Now this is what I wanted to put on the front of our barrel ride because it's awesome, but it's kind of heavy. And since weight matters, I'm just gonna make a mini version out of this dog skull. It's still gonna be badass.
Demon dog.
Drum roll, please. Meet the rolling drum rocket, or the MythBusters Pulse Jet go-kart.
Oh my God, that is insanity.
You know one thing we forgot?
What?
Brakes.
Where we're going, we don't need brakes.
At Alameda, the team has arrived lock, stock, and pulse jet barrel.
You know, after that first test, I really didn't think this had much promise, but after building this thing, I cannot wait to see what it does.
Oh, come on, this is MythBusters. You knew how this was gonna end. It's either gonna explode or it's gonna zoom down the runway.
That's the plan, and the team is feeling optimistic.
After going through our small-scale tests, coming up with modifications to give us more thrust, and then finally getting to this stage where we have this crazy vehicle, I think we have a very good chance of replicating the results today.
Just like last time, the kart gets an uneasy rider.
Those eyes are creeping me out. I'm gonna make them look less scary.
Nice touch.
Oh, that's perfect, because it wasn't weird enough.
With the rider on board and the fuel fueled,
All right, let's light him up.
Tori takes care of their sophisticated ignition system, lighting the blowtorch and running for it.
Yeah!
Here we go. In
Fire
3,
it.
2, 1.
Yeah!
Hey! We got some thrust! Look at that! Yeah! It's working!
Do you think it'll just keep adding speed and adding speed?
It's starting to pick up speed!
Come on!
Yes! All right, it's not the fastest vehicle in the world, but it's working.
That's not bad.
It's getting it down the runway.
The pulse jet is pulsing, but it's not the maximum thrust they'd hoped for.
I don't know about you, but I am traded in my car for this.
So they tweak the ignition and refuel for take 2.
Here we go. We're going.
Yes! Hey!
Right away.
Ignition!
A little blast. We got some movement.
Come on. Go, baby, go! Yeah!
Whoa! That was a nice little blast.
But it's not much better.
It's like a big black blur across the horizon.
After repeated attempts, the MythBusters haven't replicated their small-scale success.
We are just not getting the thrust that we expected. If you look at the initial pulse, you'll see it's not like a wah, it's like a poof. Now, what we think is happening is that some things just don't scale up. This larger diameter nozzle and this cone, they're in scale with the small scale. But when we moved up to the bigger barrel, we didn't necessarily get a bigger explosion. And so we think some of that energy is being lost in this large diameter. It's allowing too much gas to escape. So what we need to do is go back to the shop, cut this off, and put a smaller diameter nozzle on it and see if that holds more gas in, and from that, we'll get more thrust.
Well, the MythBusters have the technology, and quick as a flash,
Gorgeous.
Bang! Just like that.
they have rebuilt it. Back at the runway, the question is, will the smaller nozzle on their pulse jet get them rocketing?
All right, fire in the hole. Here we go. 3, 2,
Stand by.
1.
And ignition.
Oh, we already got some movement.
All right.
A lot
That's
better
a
than
good
before.
sign.
I like it.
It's a good sign, and it is more thrust than previous tests. But only marginally.
That is hysterical.
Adorable.
It is adorable, really.
Look out, people! It's coming through.
And I was worried about how we were gonna stop it.
And after the slowest fence collision on record, the kart is spent.
That was funny.
Hilarious. It worked. We got our barrel vehicle to go down the runway. All right, it didn't go very fast and we didn't have a lot of thrust, but we got consistent combustion and we actually got some momentum. And the best part is, like all of our MythBuster vehicles, we managed to crash into the fence.
We gave this the best possible chance of working. We added a fuel injection system, low rolling resistance tires, continuous triggering, and still, with all of that, we couldn't go very far or very fast. This one is well and truly busted.
Their pulse jet barrel may be busted, But as Carrie said earlier,
It's either gonna explode or it's gonna zoom down the runway.
there are only two ways this myth can truly end.
We've thoroughly tested the first part of the story, which is the swinging, and we came up totally busted. Push. You can't get 6 people in here and get them to move it. It's just not possible. But there's a second and a third part to this story, and that's where we're going now.
Yep, there's still the cling and climb. If they make like pirates and cheat the swing, can they cart the cage up the cliff? First, they'll need something to get a grip on.
Are you happy with it?
Yeah, we're done.
This crash mat rigging combo will stand in for the movie vines.
There it is, a goal fit for a pirate.
Topped off with a flag fit for capture, they're ready to get all hands on deck.
Right, lads, it's time to get swinging. Now, to be correct to the movie, we've re-extended our cables to be 80 feet long. The building behind me is our cliff. The netting is the vines. We're gonna get in our ball and start it swinging.
Inside the ball, it's still the same 6 savvy seamen. But more importantly this time, they're getting a lift from some land-loving muscle.
Holy crap.
There we go. And 3, 2, 1, go.
Rather than risk a full-speed cliff collision, the tug squad start the swing gently.
This is fun.
This is really fun. This is dangerous jungle gym antics for adults.
All right, maggots, let's swing towards that wall. 3, 2, 1, go!
Not quite.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And finding that sweet swing spot takes brains and brawn.
Drat!
Well, this swing testing was exactly what I wanted to see, because the fact that it's taking 4 strong guys with all of their strength to pull us back means that that's about what it's going to take to hold on to the rope when we get to the other side.
But with a little more heave-ho, the muscle manages to give them the swing they need.
We grabbed on! Give yourself a round of applause. Wait, no, you can't.
All right, let it go on the count of 3, 2, 1, let go!
It's an aha moment.
A round of applause for the pirates.
To the crew's surprise, hanging on wasn't as difficult as expected.
So we were successful at swinging up to the wall and holding on, and it requires quite a bit of strength, but at least we're not having to support our own weight and the weight of the ball. We're simply restricting ourselves from swinging back. When we start to have to climb the wall, that's when we're going to have to pull all this weight up, and that's going to be a different story.
Personally, I don't think we're going to be able to do it.
Well, now to put it all together.
Right, crew, are you ready?
They'll swing, they'll cling, and attempt to capture the flag.
In 3, 2, 1, go! Whoa! Yes! I've grabbed! Now, try and climb!
With the crew clinging on harder than Star Trek extras, the climb commences. It's hand over hand as everyone pulls their weight.
We're going up! It's working!
And to both MythBusters' surprise, the 1,500-pound cage ascends.
It's working! We're almost free, lads! I'm so excited I turned Scottish!
And the ball climbs first 1 story and then 2.
Grab the flag! Oh!
After climbing a vertical 12 feet, victory is theirs.
In 3, 2, 1, let go! Wow! Nice work! How about that? We
wrong.
Indeed, because you can't argue with that success.
So I grab the vine I'm holding onto, which is a vertical rope, and I still am thinking at this point, there's no way in hell this is going to work. And then I start to be able to pull on some rope, and I notice everybody else is pulling too, and all of a sudden we're climbing 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 feet, and I look up, and the Jolly Roger here is within our grasp. One of my pirate crew grabs it, and it was a success.
Thank you.
A success, as many hands made light work.
The thing about moving up a wall with that many people is that there are at least a dozen arms and some legs involved in doing it. So it's kind of like a centipede. It's a very fluid movement. It's not easy, but it was surprisingly smooth.
And after all the efforts of their motley crew, where does that leave the myth?
Swinging a bone cage under your own power from inside of it.
Busted.
Catching onto the vines on the side of the ravine once you've swung over to it.
Plausible.
And climbing out of that ravine once you've caught onto those vines.
Surprisingly plausible.
Who would have thought?
Arr. Arr. You know, there's one last thing they did in the movie.
Well, clearly the idea of a barrel rocket go-kart is busted.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it's never going to work with methanol and an ignition source like the Myths. And secondly, even with all of our modifications, there's no way we could get it to go fast.
Yeah, there is just no way this is ever gonna happen. I mean, it's just too heavy and there's not enough thrust to push that weight.
Well, you know what? I just want to leave it here. So actually, I found an expert who uses the exact same materials: methanol, ignition source, and barrel. And he reckons he can get his rig up to 30 miles an hour and possibly even faster.
Cool.
What are we waiting for?
On a runway in San Joaquin County, the barrel go-kart myth is about to go ballistic.
We're at the New Jerusalem Airport runway. Why? Because we're MythBusters, and we're not going to be satisfied with that 5-mile-an-hour run we saw with our barrel rocket, and that's being generous. We want to see something impressive. And that is where Bob Maddox comes in.
Absolutely, because if Bob's propulsive prowess can make a push bike jet-propelled, imagine what he can do with a barrel.
This thing is going to be insane.
Now, Bob is one of the few people in the world with the job title Professional Pulse Jet Builder. He's been designing and building these jets for over 20 years. He's taken our barrel rocket design and highly modified it. It may look the same on the outside, but inside it's completely different. And it's gonna be totally badass.
But just what exactly are these badass modifications?
Now tell us what some of the differences are between ours and yours.
Well, the difference is mostly we have a one-way reed valve up here in the front. When the explosion goes off, it makes all the gases go out the tail and won't go out the front.
The one-way valve focuses the thrust more efficiently, but the major change is that this pulse jet pulses at heart-stopping speed.
And that happens 70 or 80 times a second inside of this one, where yours was only once every 4 or 5 seconds or whatever.
Let's see if yours will match our whopping 5-mile-an-hour speed.
Bob's about to fire up the barrel rocket car for the first time. Now it's going to be tethered. We're going to turn it on just to make sure everything's working.
All right, Bob, fire it up. All right, let's see if we can tear up this runway.
It's an important tethered systems check. Because as the subtitles make clear, 70 pulses a second is a lot more powerful than expected.
It's a little bit louder, maybe a little more powerful than ours.
That's scary. That's a little scary.
Maybe we should have some safety precautions to keep this thing from flying off into who knows where.
Maybe we should cable it down.
Okay. That thing is awesome. Now, we know Bob can build a pulse jet engine, but he has never attached it to a go-kart made out of a barrel and 4 bicycle wheels. So we have no idea what's gonna happen. I mean, this thing could explode. It could go flying out of control. So we have taken some extra safety precautions to make sure nothing bad happens. One, we have a steel cable that'll be running down the length of our runway so that our cart stays on track. We also added a kill switch, so if it does go out of control, we can shut it down whenever we want. At the end of the runway, we have K-rails set up, so that way if it does get out of control, it has a barrier to crash into. We'll be standing behind the blast shield while this all takes place. This is gonna be awesome, but most importantly, it's gonna be safe. 4,000 feet of cable. That should keep our cart in line.
It should, but the Pulse Jet go-kart won't be the only thing on the line. There's also their previous record.
We're going to have to surpass a record here of the last barrel rocket, 5 miles an hour. So for this to be impressive, I want to see highway speeds.
Now, Bob has been perfecting his engine for years. Now, we had 3 days to build ours, and we were able to get it to go 5 miles an hour. I'm hoping his can go faster than ours. I'm pretty sure it will. Or could just explode. Either way, it's gonna be cool.
Guys, seen better days?
And with the sinister Simulade tagging along again, will this finally replicate the results and send the go-kart rocketing?
Bob, it's the moment of truth.
Yep, I'm ready.
You guys ready to fire this thing up?
Let's go.
Okay, I'm gonna measure the speed, because I have a feeling he's flying.
All right.
The team retires to a safe distance, and it's over to Bob to initiate launch. And run for his life.
All right, this is Pulse Jet Barrel Rocket on steroids. Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Then the barrel is unleashed. And it thunders down the runway at speed.
50 miles an hour.
Dude, that was awesome! You know what? This myth is still busted. I mean, look what we had to resort to make this work.
A professional! Oh, Bob, that was awesome.
Nice work.
Finally, after a string of failures, the MythBusters have gotten their happy ending. The cart jetted a mile down the runway at super speed.
So our barrel rocket, with Bob's help, got up to freeway speed in about 150 yards. Now, I'm certain that if we didn't have this guideline and if we had more space, it could have gone a lot faster, but 50 was all that we needed for this myth. The thing that you don't get, and you're probably not gonna get to experience this in full at home, is the sound this thing makes. It's like,
Finally, we got it to work. We got our barrel jet to go down the runway at 50 miles an hour. Okay, so we had to bring in an expert with a completely different jet engine, but still, we got a barrel with a guy on it going down the runway at 50 miles an hour. This is still busted, but it's pretty awesome.